So this presentation is about Epic HR and the using of APIs in the area of shared service, and how it's going to help HR improve their roles and their business processes. The key points that I focused on is how HR currently operates. The next one is the APIs and you. That is meaning how API benefits each individual. Next one is what's the value proposition, and what benefits can a company derive from integrating APIs. And the next and final one is how we actually use it at Epic Technologies. So from the how we use it, how the current HR role, the key point is that HR is actually a key strategic partner in the company. They also have other roles such as managing talents, managing the culture, monitoring performance through the performance management roles and so forth. And we are officially originally they're like the mom and dad of the company, and their role is like never ending. They achieve those tasks by using various tools such as spreadsheets, word processing tools, various HR softwares, and surveys and so forth to accomplish the task that they would want to do. But APIs can actually help benefit that workflow by simplifying it and make it less cumbersome. So the benefits, the first definition is actually API stands for Application Programming Interface, and it's just basically sharing services across different softwares and combining them in various formats as required. The strategy or the main value of APIs is that it definitely is used to drive innovation, as we've seen over the years. It's one of the most disruptive technologies. It has enhanced and disrupt various industries from financial, health, and so forth. It's also a catalyst and an enabler. What that essentially means is that you can use APIs to innovate and create new tools that you weren't previously privy to, especially when data is a main key ingredient. An enabler in this case, because APIs prevent you from focusing on the key part of the infrastructure and just focus on solving the problem, it becomes the facilitating technology. The next one is that it increases the value of the assets, so data, whereby you can have access to that data wherever you need to have access to it. And it also improves the business knowledge by collaborating and pulling data from multiple places. So this is basically a high level, this is a graph showing how has API grown over the past couple of years. And as you can see, the actual number of public APIs is actually exceeding 15,000 by year 2016. And however, you see the growth path, which was a predicted growth path, exceeding 30,000. The interesting thing is that it can actually be close to that 30,000 mark, because quite a few APIs aren't actually public. Majority of the companies, they are not exposing their data to external parties without contracts and competition and so forth. So in general, to simplify what API is just basically think of it as a wall plug socket. What that means is you have these different tools that you're trying to get data from or electricity from to be powered. And if it is that you don't have this interface to get data, to get electricity in most cases, API in this case is the replication of that, where you can have different services that plugs into this outlet to get information when required, without caring about the usage of it too much. Some of the benefits is that it it's easily integrated into various applications, meaning you can have a tool already exists and you want additional data, so you don't really have to create a new tool. You just actually pull data from somewhere else and lay them out. Improve data sharing. You may have a lot of different tools to solve a lot of different problems as outlined earlier, but the issue is that the problem that API solves is by sharing the data across different entities. You can actually customize that data, so you can have the data format in whatever way you want without changing the data context in general. Data consistency, that means once those APIs are up and running, you can have those data wherever, once you don't place any restrictions on them. An application and device independent, essentially what that means is you can have multiple devices to utilize and to actually get data out of, or to capitalize on the usage of those. So currently we can go back to the flow that the HR is basically the center of the organization, and what that means is they're the strategic partners, so they have to focus on a lot of these applications to actually accomplish their task, or to help the company accomplish the goals that they would like to accomplish. Essentially, they have all these different tools that they would need to use. APIs in general is that key ingredient to pull those information across the board and from these different tools to actually accomplish these tasks. The general gist is that from the complex understanding of these tools, HR is essentially a superhero type of role within the company. So APIs generally kind of drives home that point where it will be used to drive innovation going forward and improve processes as things goes on. So from a business value perspective, the benefits are around time, resource, and capital. Time, in essentially the scenario is that if you want to build an authentication system, normally companies would purchase this authentication system, then create a software to actually capture the data. But essentially these systems already provide an API, so there's no need to actually create a software for it. Just plug it into your already existing HR solution to actually achieve that purpose. Resources, from that same context, it would save you time because there's no need to develop and to use your development team effort to create something that requires little to no effort. Capital, if it is that you then want to change the system, there is no additional cost in changing a new tool or rewriting a new tool. You just actually plug in that API and change the data format, and then you'll have access to that information. So how do we use it at Epic Technologies? One of the key tools that we use APIs with is actually Epic HR software. We pull various data across different sectors, the calendar. We pull data from the attendance, which I just outlined earlier, attendance system, and other APIs to actually drive home the point that this is how we actually use it to achieve the task and the goals of the company. So that way, if HR would like to see what events are going on and in which sector, they can easily do that. If it is that they want to see what's the attendance over a period of time, they don't really have to go and access that logins or monitoring system. They just actually use their Epic HR tool to achieve that task. So back to the point of HR being the strategic partner, this is just essential driving home that API is the key tool for that. And API would allow companies to actually focus on what really matters, and in this case, to be more specific, the HR folks in the HR department can utilize tools to figure out where at what level of the performance quadrant are folks at. So performance quadrant essentially is a way of categorizing what level a person is at and what ways you can actually recommend to improve them. So it has 4 sections. From the X and Y axis level, the Y axis is showing the will of the individual, which is actually the capabilities. Well, will is the motivation, and the skills is the capabilities. So in the lower section you have the low will low skill, in the other section, and so forth. So the ultimate aim is to get folks in the high will, high skill, which is high motivation, high capability point, and you have to make decisions and recommendations in terms of how to get them there. Now, if API is used to pull data from sales portal and so forth, you can actually monitor where are folks on at in this quadrant, and when you make when you make an action of trying to get them into that top right hand corner, you can use APIs to monitor the tool. So API is going forward is going to be the key driving force, especially when in the era of shared services where governments would like to pass data across the board, or you like to collaborate with different entities. APIs will be that key ingredient to link and to connect and to share information across the board. And that is essentially what API is building that bridge to endless possibilities. And here are the links at the last section.